pandemic. Thank you, Lord. May your name be further glorified through this activity. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Miss Putri.
Thank you, Pendeta is amazing. And before we proceed with the lecture, we would like to welcome Dr. Andy Julianto to give us a little welcome speech. Please, Dr. Andy.
Thank you, Moderator. The Honorable guest, Mr. Leong Honam from Parkway Hospital, Singapore, as a keynote speaker in this guest lecture today. And the second, the committee of this event, all participants of this guest lecture. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Medical Faculty Universitas Methodist Indonesia has been developing itself to be a qualified medical faculty in a global, universal sphere, especially in infectious diseases, as written in its vision. Along with the effort to be a qualified medical faculty, we have a guest lecture from overseas to enhance the learning quality and to share his experiences in person to our students in order to widen students' international view and to enable our lecturers to network. This guest lecture invites Mr. Leong Honam from Parkway Hospital with current mutation. This topic is quite interesting. So that we expect all students. Last but not least, I wish you a good time in joining this guest lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andy. To shorten the time, we would like to welcome once again Dr. Leong, and thank you so much for your time and hospitality to serve us today with your lecture. And before you start, I would like to read a little bit on your curriculum vitae. Dr. Leong is an infectious disease physician, graduated from NUS in 1996 and obtained his MRCP and MMed in 2001. And Dr. Leong began his advanced specialist training in infectious disease. He pursued his interest in virology at the Royal Free and University of College Medical School from London under a fellowship awarded by the National Medical Research Council. In 2008, he was awarded a second research fellowship to train at the University of Columbia, New York, on emerging pathogens. Dr. Leong was also previously a consultant in the Department of Infectious Disease in Singapore General Hospital. And he continued his practice in infectious disease at the private Raffles Hospital before setting up his own clinic at Mount Elizabeth Novena Hospital. His research interest is in general virology, beta herpes virus, emerging and re-emerging pathogens, as well as molecular diagnostic. I think Dr. Leong is an expert on it. And once again, without further ado, we would like to please Dr. Leong, the time and place is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You are very, very kind. I'm going to jump straight into the talk because there's really a lot to share. And I put into everybody that please feel free to ask anything at all regarding the talk or regarding the questions on COVID-19. I promise you I'll be very honest and I'll share with you exactly what's happening, even with the bad news or the good news. I want to give some idea about vaccine variants and even try to project for you what's going to happen in future, so that with this knowledge, we can actually go forward and serve our patients better. Can I just say that I'm in full admiration of your university, that y'all will pray before the lecture. I think that will set the heart straight, because at the end of the day, God is central. So I salute you all for praying before that. That's the best thing I've learned today. Okay, variants. I'm going to talk about variants and the mutations and talk about the COVID-19 rollout. My emphasis will actually be on Indonesia and the vaccines which are available in Indonesia. This is the WHO updates up to 18th of April. They haven't got a newer report, but you can tell that we really have many, many patients with COVID-19 consistently. And the number of deaths are just going up. And you probably heard the news in the last 1 week, India has been rising with more and more cases and unfortunately more and more deaths. In fact, India, there's not enough oxygen. There are pictures of people where they will have two of them on the bed and then running oxygen. There's a picture of a mother who has a child in a scooter because the child is dead. So COVID-19 actually kills many, many people, and we need to do something about this. And if you look at the cases in the world and look at the hotspots, the darker the colors, the more activity. You can see that in South Asia, in Europe, in India, even in Mongolia, there are really many, many cases of COVID. An extra one case of COVID is one too many, and the number of deaths there are will just continue to rise. Overall mortality is still about 1% to 2%. We need to stop this. If we don't stop this, more people are still going to die. And one of the lessons I want to share with you is this. The virus is relentless. That means it keeps going on and on and on. It's very smart because it will evade our immune system. And whatever we try to do as human beings, we are always behind them because the virus is outstepping us. I'll give you an example. When we say that we wear the mask and we'll protect ourselves from the mask, the virus makes itself more transmissible. When we think the incubation period is 14 days, they make the incubation period 21 days. Now we extend the quarantine for 21 days, and you know what's going to happen. The virus will mutate and such that it becomes 28 days. It wants to stay on. It wants to continue to infect more and more people. The third thing is, if you think about it, now we have vaccines. What do you think the virus will do? It will try to overcome the vaccines. And if you think about it, people have been infected before. What do you think the virus wants to do? It wants to reinfect the person again and again and again. So we have had cases of reinfection, and the risk of reinfection after a previous infection is about 10 to 20%. So what does that mean? The virus is here to stay. It will infect us again, again, and again, non-stop. Can you imagine life like this going on for the next 5 to 10 years? I can't. So this is the mutation part. If you look at it, the parental strain is here. The RNA, when they do the division, they introduce a lot of errors. And then after that, you actually end up with a new strain. And this is how influenza virus does it. This is how HIV virus does it. But are they mutating faster? No. Actually, they are not faster mutating. It's just that there are so many infections, there are so many opportunities for the virus to mutate. And the incredible thing about this is the immunity to COVID-19 is not permanent. I was wrong. We thought it was permanent. In fact, influenza viruses, once you get one influenza virus, it will be exactly the same strain, you have immunity. If it deviated slightly, you have some immunity. But when it changes totally for influenza, you have no immunity. But for COVID-19, the same virus, you meet it again 6 months later, you have a 10 to 20% chance of getting sick again, which means we may not be able to get rid of this COVID-19 at all. COVID-19 causes infection again and again. And when we throw something at it, we throw a mask at the virus, they will mutate and adapt. We change the vaccine incubation period, it will adapt. And how it adapts, one of the ways is through the spike protein, which you see here. the spike protein will engage, and then it will change the structure, and then it will change. So this is very, very important for people who wants to know why the mRNA vaccines were so successful. Is because they knew that after the virus spike protein joins with the receptor, it changes. They made a slight alteration in the vaccine so as to catch it in the open state, in the pre-capture state. In the pre-capture state, it will be neutralizing. Some of the vaccines failed because they coded it for the post-fusion state. That means right at the bottom down here. Post-fusion state, then your vaccine doesn't work very well. Pre-fusion state, it works very well. This is why the mRNA vaccines were very successful, because they targeted in the pre-fusion state. Now, then what happens is the virus vaccine will go inside the virus will go inside the cell, mutate, and thereafter form out new ones. And what each time the virus does is it will mutate the spike protein so as to evade the immune system. Why does mutation occur? It's simply because of natural mutation, selection. The virus is constantly mutating, and we expect 2 to 3 new mutations every month. Now, the mutations that happen, some of it is neutral, and nothing happens to the virus. If the mutation is severe, it will kill the host. That means the patient will die with the virus. Rest in peace. But if there is a new mutation that encourages transmission, then it will outrun the others, and this will take over. And we see with the new mutation, because this is neutral, nothing happens, and this is a new mutation that's faster, you can see that the virus again will mutate, and then it tries to outrun faster and faster. If it mutates too much and the person dies, it dies, and then this becomes neutral. So eventually, the property of the virus is to mutate until transmission is best. And we see it, we predict it, and it's happening right now in India, because they have now adapted and transmission is so much faster than before. What you could use last time may not be applicable now. You may need to have better masks instead of the simple cloth mask. Okay, so natural selection will eventually choose out those which are less pathogenic. Going forward, I expect the number of deaths overall to come down, but the number of cases will still be high. But because death as a percentage will be fewer, but the base in which the denominator will be higher and more. So this orange here, this will outrun eventually. Is this mutation new? No. Last year in February, there was already mutation. And you see in a matter of 2 months, the whole world was taken over by mutation. So mutation exists, and mutation will continue because of the fitness advantage. Now, when you look at this code of the D614, G614, what does it mean? We call this mutation D614G mutation because at the 614 genotype, from D, it became G. So if you look at this coding for N501Y, is actually at the nucleotide 501, the amino acid from N became Y. Okay. Now, you also hear the numbers of B1351, P1, B117, B1617. What does that represent? It actually represents lineages. If you see all these, this is all the COVID-19 variants that are described. And then it's like a tree stretching out. Every branch, you have a B, you will call it B117, a P1, the B1351, B1617. There's a way in which you name it, and then they will break it up this way. So when I say B117, it actually talks about mutation in one of the branches. Now, you can also understand that one of the branches may have N501Y mutation, may have this mutation, and that mutation. So N501Y talks about the specific RNA mutation, where it is. The B117s and the B1351s talk about the lineages. They both describe the same thing. Now, why is it important is that if you see the B117 mutation lineage here, you have the N501Y. And 1501Y gives you a lot of transmission. Then if you look at the B1351, it's a different tree branch, but they have the N501Y mutation, E484K, as well as the K417M mutation. So they have different mutations, different lineages, but they have different mutations. Then you have the P1, which has the N501Y and the E484K. Now, 501 and E484K is very special. 501 makes the transmission so much easier. E484K gives it a resistance to the immunity. So once I get if I have some immunity here, I get E484K. I can overcome the previous mutation, the resistance, the immunity, and then overcome it, and I win. That means it's almost like a E484K, make it a super strong virus that make it overcome immune system. Whereas the M501 makes it more transmissible. So more transmissible, more resistance to immune system, then we are in bigger trouble. So now they talk about the double mutant, which you see in the news about the India strain E484Q. That means that the nucleoside 484 from E became Q, as well as the L452R. It will actually, both of them will evade the immune system, and the L452R makes it more transmissible. Okay. Now, I want you to know something. You realize that how is it that 117 has N501? How is it that B1351 has N501? The answer is this is called convergent mutation. Convergence. You give it enough time, more and more the virus will eventually mutate to certain mutations that gives it advantage. So it looks like N501 is a good mutation for the virus. E484K is a good mutation for the virus. E484Q is a good mutation for the virus. So eventually, the mutation which we have in Singapore, Indonesia will be the same as India. You give it enough time, you end up with the same mutations. This is called mutation convergence, even though the people may not be meeting. Now, I just want to show you this slide to show you that all the mutants are all competing against each other. See who can dominate the world. And once they dominate the world, then there's resistance ready. The immune function is capable. Another one will come out and try to overtake. So all of them are competing for one thing, to infect more and more humans, more and more us. In fact, they want to infect our animals. The dogs, remember, the dogs also, and the cats, and they also get infected with COVID-19. It wants to invent itself, it wants to adapt, and it wants to have world domination. It wants to cause repeated infection. And all this is because when you evade, when you adapt, when you do mutants, it wants to spread more quickly and evade the immunity. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the vaccines now. They started off with more than 150 vaccines. Eventually, there are some vaccines here that failed. You see those at the bottom, on the right-hand side now. 4 vaccines failed. In terms of approved, there are 8. In terms of authorized, there are 5. But I can tell you all those, the rest, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, the phase 1, phase 2 is gone. They won't make it. So only on the few vaccines will work. And even those that are approved, like the Astrazeneca and the J&J, some countries are saying, I don't want AstraZeneca. I don't want J&J because it causes some problems. So what it means is we may lose some of these 8 approved vaccines. Eventually, it's like the best nasi biryani makan there is. You have 10 restaurants serving nasi biryani. All of them you can buy. The nicest one, you end up buying the nicest one. Then the worst nasi biryani, that's it. no one will eat already. Okay, so eventually it will only be a few players that will be successful. Those players must be effective, and those players must be um, effective as well as very little side effects. Then it will become the number one nasi lemak or nasi biryani store. Okay, so again, like free market, they are all competing. Some vaccines have failed. Okay, so this is just to show you that more than 953 million doses have been given worldwide, which represents about 12 per 100 people. But it is not fair. It is not fair because many countries haven't even got the vaccines at all. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about the different vaccines. Okay, change gear a little bit. So there are two mRNA vaccines. We have the Pfizer BioNTech and the Moderna vaccines. They are mRNA vaccines. It has gone through. In fact, the studies are very, very good. In terms of UK, the number of cases with sick ones are coming down. In terms of Israel used Pfizer exclusively. The number of cases came down. I was actually very jealous of Israel because they actually say take off mask last weekend. Can you imagine this? Take off mask last weekend. Okay, so they roll it out, they push it out, but they buck up with Pfizer. They say, Pfizer, you sell me fast, you sell me cheap. I will give you all the data from the country, and I'll showcase that the Pfizer vaccine works. So the mRNA works. It's very good new technology. It's very efficacious, and there are more than 100 million doses have been given. It is actually relatively safe. So quite good. You will, I can tell you, there will be one or two odd cases with funny problems coming out. But if the risk is less than 1 per million or 5 per million, it's okay because the death risk is still 1%. So how mRNA vaccine works is very simple. The mRNA is like a recipe book. You put the recipe book into the cytoplasm, it makes exactly that dish. Okay, so in Singapore, our three favorite food will be like laksa and the black pepper crab and nasi lemak. You put nasi lemak inside, nasi lemak comes out. You put black pepper crab inside, black pepper crab comes out. So you put the spike protein inside, spike protein comes out. But the spike protein and the recipe coding doesn't go to my brain. It only goes to my mouth. It doesn't go to my brain because the brain is a nucleus. It doesn't change. So instead of you putting the spike protein in the arm, we actually ask the body to take over and make the spike protein. So when that happens, the spike protein comes out. There's an immune reaction. The body learns to train. If you all like video, you can actually watch this video here with a QR code. Take out your camera, scan the QR code, or you can take a picture and you see the website here. It shows you how the mRNA vaccine works. mRNA vaccine, they tried to do it in the rats in the 1970s. Okay, that was when I was still anak running around playing marbles. They really tried the mRNA on the rats. It worked a little bit, but not very good. In about 2000, they cracked the code and they started succeeding. Then in about 2013, they started mRNA vaccine trials on rabies vaccine, on malaria vaccine. And they actually, the rabies vaccine has gone on to phase 3, is very, very good. So this is not new in a sense, but this is the first time it ever has been approved. So I'm not worried about it because if there are any issues, it will start popping out. And after the 100 million doses have been given, if any problems, it should pop up and then we'll know. But it depends on you and me. If anyone gets any vaccine problems, we need to notify the authorities. Now, at this point in time, I want to stress to you, it doesn't enter the nucleus, it produces what it instructs. It's a minuscule, in terms of mcg, not milligrams, salah, there's a mistake here, it's mcg. This to stabilize the RNA and it lasts a long time. Remember the RNA vaccine needs minus 70. What's your temperature? 36, 37 degrees. So you jab inside, it will start breaking down. Okay, I spent a bit of time on mRNA vaccines for two reasons. Number one, this is a new vaccine. We don't know much about it, but so far seems to be quite safe. Number two, is actually the most efficacious vaccine there is. It's one of the best vaccines for COVID-19. So just very quickly, some of the vaccine side effects. This is a publication for 1 whole month. They gave about 30 million doses. Overall, only 0.05% went to complain to the doctors about the side effects. And in terms of the risk of bad side effects or serious side effects, 4.6. But in terms of severe allergy, it's only about 4 to 5 per million. Now, a lot of people do have some pain initially, and you notice that the pain between the first dose and the second dose is actually a lot more. The pain gets better after each dose. But the key thing is that you need to remember, you need to have 2 doses. 2 doses is like revising your schoolwork twice. When you revise your schoolwork twice, you revise your exam twice, you have better memory and you have a booster effect. What's the actual risk of anaphylaxis? Is only about 4.5 cases per million. Very, very uncommon. But if you think about it, if you had influenza vaccine before, your case is 1.4 per million. Your pneumonia vaccine before is 2.5 per million. If you had shingles vaccine before is 9.6 per cases per million. So anaphylaxis is a known problem with all the vaccines. And if it happens, hence you must, after jab, watch the patient for 30 minutes to make sure that there are no side effects and problems. And then some people ask me, 4 cases per million is too much. But if you think about it, in Singapore, if you road traffic accident, the risk is 21 per million of dying. So I ask my patients, you cross the road today, then you'll be exposed to 21 per million risk of dying. Is there death rates from smoking? Yes. Your death rate of smoking is 2,480. So if you smoke, you're not scared of smoking, but you're scared of taking the vaccine is ridiculous because the smoking causes more death than the vaccine. So anaphylaxis is after all a bad reaction, and then this happens in the hospital or at the vaccination center where they're medicine to block it. So you don't really die from it. Okay, so that's the mRNA vaccines. The next one, I want to talk to you about 3 vaccines. One is the ChAdOx, which is the Astrazeneca vaccine. I know Indonesia has it. So this is a vaccine where they use an adenovirus to hold the spike protein. So it's an adenovirus based vaccine. So they use it for ChAdOx, they use it for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Now, 2 vaccines is shown to be quite effective. You're talking about 80-90% effectiveness. Very, very good. Then the Sputnik is from Russia. They also use adenovirus vaccine, and overall they're saying is 91.6%. But very few countries use Sputnik. More countries actually use ChAdOx. Johnson & Johnson just approved, but they have a bit of problem, and they're stopped at this point in time. Okay, so stress to you, prevention is 82%, very good. Johnson & Johnson is okay. Sputnik is okay. And how the AstraZeneca vaccine works, what happens is that they take the spike protein, they put it inside the chimpanzee virus. When they jab inside, the DNA will go inside and make the spike protein to come out. So you have to develop antibodies. So this is the technology is the same as mRNA, has been around for a long time, but it is the first time it's actually used in human beings and approved. Okay, very much like the mRNA, but the results are actually quite good. But as you realize, there are problems with the vaccine. It causes clots, and the clots is actually associated with PF4 antibody. You can see this PF4 heparin antibodies causes it. So what it means is that after the vaccine, a funny antibody comes out and causes clots. And the clots will happen in different parts of the body, as you can see it down here. And yet the person is at bleeding risk. You bleed because you don't have the clots at the right place. You clot at the wrong places, and you can end up with stroke or very bad conditions. Now, the last one is actually CoronaVac or Cyanovac that's available in Indonesia. Is 2 doses, and the efficacy is a little bit different between 50 to 83%. Very old technology. They use alum. Alum is a form to stimulate the immune system. How to understand it? Cyanovac is like instant noodles. Because you have the instant noodles there, the virus is dead, it's the noodles. You add in the adjuvant, which is like the seasoning, then immediately the instant noodles are much nicer to eat. Then you have a stronger immune response. The trouble with CoronaVac is this. The alum which they have is weak. It works, but it doesn't work very well, which means the immune response is not as good as Astrazeneca or the mRNA vaccines. And I'm going to share with you some of the other things. Why is there a difference in Cyanovac vaccine? You may have heard this, it's 50% to 90%. The answer is that it's because the spectrum of illness is very different. Remember, COVID-19, some people have no symptoms, some people have mild symptoms, some people have severe symptoms, and some of them die. With this difference in symptoms, you will then realize that the vaccine works differently. The mild ones is 50% efficacy. The severe ones is probably 100% efficacy. There will be cases where they get hospitalized. Okay? So the more dangerous a condition, the better the vaccine. Now, I agree that Cyanovac vaccine is not as potent as the mRNA vaccines, which means if I get the Cyanovac vaccine, I may still fall sick. But as long as I don't die, it's okay. Which means everyone should just go ahead and get vaccines, even with Cyanovac. Okay, I agree it's not ideal, but you have no choice because there's no other vaccines available. Can you buy Pfizer vaccine just from the shelf? Be careful of what you buy. In South America, they have fake Pfizer vaccines for sale. And know how much they sell for 1 dose of fake Pfizer vaccine? 10,000 US dollars. And the person who buys already has got bluff lah. Okay, 10,000 US dollars for fake goods. So for the individual, it is good. The vaccine will protect against severe illness. You may fall sick, a little bit mild, but no problem. But the government doesn't like it, because it will still, these people with mild illness can still spread to other people. I'm going to skip to the next one. So it should work well, but the effectiveness will not be as good as the mRNA vaccines or AstraZeneca. So this is just to show you that the Pfizer-BioNTech, in terms of the mutants, whether it works or it doesn't work. Then Cyanovac, unfortunately, there is no published data to say how much works, how much doesn't work. The press says it works. Yes, that's all we have. Now, I've looked at some of the data from Cyanovac. I think it works quite well for the young people. It will protect against a severe illness. But for the older people, the efficacy may not be there. And WHO thinks so as well. 60 years old and above, the immune response may not be very good. Okay, so original type of the vaccine, very, very good. The other mutants is actually not very effective. Okay, so I'm going to skip through this one. Now, what are the problems with the vaccine? After injection, you can get some pain. That's fine. You may have some fever, body aches, chills, fatigue, headache. The symptoms which you get, the headache, the body ache, and stuff like that, is good. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Suggest that this symptom is good? Because it represents the immune reaction. The more immune reaction you have, then when the real virus comes, the stronger the response. But there are many, many people out there with no immune response, but yet, that means no symptoms, no fever, no headache, but yet they have the antibodies. So we can't be sure. If you do have symptoms, first thing I want to do is I want to congratulate you because you're going to have good antibody levels. Okay, so it's mounting the immune response. Should I get the COVID-19 vaccine if after I get the COVID-19? Yes, you will. You see, after natural infection, your immune protection is so much. If I vaccinate you here now, my immunity will be even higher. When it's higher, what can you deal with? You can deal with the mutants. The mutants will not be a problem. But if you only got natural infection, you don't go for vaccine, your immune protection is only so much. So the mutants will come and then this poor guy kena infeksi lagi. So you get infection again, then after that a bit higher, but never go for vaccine, kena infeksi lagi, then kena again. So you can imagine this poor guy get infection again and again and again. So idea of the COVID vaccine is to push it really, really high. Now, if the person has a natural infection before, then gets the Cyanovac vaccine, I suspect the levels will be very, very good and it will be protective. How long does the antibody last? Saya tak tahu. Because the vaccine has only been around for 6 months. I can only tell you it lasts for 6 months. If I tell you it can last for 18 months, Dr. Leong must be lying because it obviously hasn't been 18 months. But we can extrapolate. We draw the curve coming down. Okay lah, maybe it'll last for 18 months, but we will know only after 18 months. Now, this is 2 important studies which is done in Denmark and UK. What you need to know is that after the person has been infection before, the protection rate is 80%. 80%, not very high. Okay, so then this one is England. After England infection before, your risk of reinfection is about 17 to 19%. So there's a 20% you can kena infeksi lagi. Okay, so hospital staff is about 83%. So risk is about 17 to 20%. This is another study also on the healthcare workers. Overall risk is about how much? It's about 11% down here. Okay, so when you kena infeksi before, it offers you some protection. But but after 3 to 6 months, you still have a 10 to 20% chance of falling sick again. How can you beat this system? You get yourself vaccinated. So going forward, vaccination is to reduce down the risk of getting the disease. It reduces down the virus excretion and possibly lower transmission. Why should I want to take the vaccine? I want to protect myself. If I fall sick, who am I going to infect? My kawan, my friend. The English, they call it score own goal. Okay? That means you play football, instead of scoring the other people, you score your own family. Your own family falls sick. There are some people who cannot be vaccinated because got no immunity. The more of us are vaccinated, we can protect them and prevent the new variants and strains. Give us an inch towards normal life. So vaccine saves lives. The bottom line is this. Some of them can be very, very good and some of them are not so good, and really depends on the severe illness. The more severe it is, the better the protection. Now I'm going to share with you what to do with the variants. Okay, you think about it, it is just a numbers game. The more protection I have, the more I can cope with the variants. You all know about the D614G in March 2020. Now they got a E484K or E484Q. With this one, the resistance is much higher. Agree? So then, but you look at my antibody, after I kena infection, my antibody levels are very, very high. But with time, it will come down, and one day it will fall below the E484K or below 484Q. So even though I have antibodies, but tak cukup, not enough, that means I get infected with E484K mutation, and from here, you can get a new infection again. So it becomes a numbers game. The more antibodies I have, the better. So the way to do it is, before it comes down here, you vaccinate yourself and you'll be fine, and the person is protected. So you need to have protection in terms of antibodies to prevent getting sick. If your levels fall down to about here, about this level, you may still fall sick, but you may not fall very, very sick, just a little bit sick. Okay, so another way of looking at it now is this. Vaccination is to prevent severe illness and hospitalization. That's on your right here. Vaccination is to prevent severe illness, hospitalization, death. Even after vaccination, you must be prepared that the virus is in the nose. But as long as you don't die, as long as you don't get hospitalized, as long as you don't fall very sick, never mind, it's okay. Then how do I prevent mutants? I have to control replication. I cannot allow the virus to replicate again and again and again. And the way to do it is with mask and social distancing. When I use mask and social distancing, I can prevent mutants. Why is India in big trouble now? It's because they don't have vaccination. They are not wearing masks and not doing social distancing. I just met a friend who tells me they're having lots of election rallies, they have large gatherings. When they do this, you're going to have a lot of replication. And when there's replication, there's only one other thing that comes out: mutants. And it becomes stronger and stronger. How can we deal with these mutants? Everyone must wear masks. If you cannot, then you go for another dose of vaccine. You get a dose of Mrna and Pfizer. What I want to see the Chinese do is, or even Indonesia, kena infection, then you get 2 doses, you measure the antibody levels. It may be the person never kena before, have 2 doses of Cyanovac, go for the 3rd dose of Cyanovac, so that the antibody levels are very, very high. That will solve one problem. The other way is actually to design the Astrazeneca vaccine such that it will target the new one. But I don't think it will work. You can understand, you're always late by 6 to 9 months. It's like your birthday party over already, you come 6 to 9 months later. Birthday party over already, you come 6 to 9 months later. You will always be behind the curve. Next method is actually mix and match. Maybe I do a Pfizer first, then after that I do a Cyanovac. Will it make it stronger? Don't know. I think it will. If I have the chance to, I want to use a good one like Pfizer or Mrna first, then use something else like Cyanovac next. I tell you, the antibody levels will be very high. But I have no proof. I think it will work, but I have no proof, so I cannot ask you all to do it. So Cyanovac can do a mix and match, and it can make a difference. Okay, I finished my talk. I think we still have 15 minutes to ask anything. I see some smiles, all of you getting tired of me. Is that correct?
No, correct.
Okay, I welcome any questions at all. Anything?
All right.
Dr. Putri, yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leong. It's very interesting. Yeah, such an insight as well. For me, who at present, I only got the first dose of Cyanovac, and soon we'll get the second dose. But it makes me sad because my first one is not Pfizer. So I don't know. It come to my mind whether it will boost my antibody since I got Cyanovac first, and will it be okay within like 3 months after my second dose, I get the Pfizer, if ever I got the vaccine, because we never heard anyone got Pfizer here in Indonesia.
Yeah. So I think it should still work. I think it still works. At the end of the day, it's the amount of antibodies to it, and the more antibodies you have, you'll be better. The analogy is that the vaccines will use you to use a pistol to shoot the enemy.
Yeah.
But if the enemy target shift, you don't use a pistol, you use a machine gun. Bang, 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 bang. The target will still die. So the more antibodies you have, the better it is.
All right. Okay. Now we would like to give a chance or time to the audience for any questions. For those who have a question, you can ask straight to Dr. Leong the question. typing in the chat room. Anybody?
Excuse me, doctor, I would like to ask a question, please.
Yes.
Okay, Sister Caroline.
As it was mentioned before, the virus can mutate or adapt through natural selection. So will it keep mutating in the future? And if it does, is there any other way for evading it other than wearing masks all the time?
Great question. Caroline, I love your question. You're right. It will continue to mutate. And unfortunately, I think the virus is here to stay, which means that it will stay on with us for the rest of our lives. In order to prevent mutation, either we have a very good vaccine and everyone's vaccinated, and then suddenly the numbers are very, very few and the virus dies off, or everyone continues wearing masks. Either one of these two, there's no other way. Now, I'm honestly very scared of something. I'm very scared that one day you'll be COVID-21 or even COVID-22. You see, the virus will keep mutating. One day it will drift far enough until it is a totally new virus. Then it becomes COVID-21 or COVID-22. And then none of our antibodies will actually work. So there is such a potential. So all the more, this is why WHO, everybody in the world, all the scientists say, please wear the mask so that we can prevent replication, prevent mutants, get everybody vaccinated. Hopefully there's no COVID-21. But at the rate the whole world, honestly, we are cooperating like enemies like that. We fight with each other. With this our cooperation, there's only one person that will win, and that's the virus. Okay, so no, I don't see a solution to wearing masks. If the country is able to get a lot of high vaccinations, if the country is able to lock itself out from the rest of the world, yes, then then they can actually take off the mask. But Caroline, I'm going to ask you another question. Do you realize that when those countries where they started using a lot of masks, all the common colds and influenzas disappeared?
Yeah.
Or no, almost disappeared. Still got very little. But when influenza goes away, your heart attack goes down, your pneumonia goes down, people live longer. So when I wear a mask, I'm actually blessing you because I don't want you to fall sick. I want to bless you with long life. When you wear a mask, you're also blessing me with long life so that everyone lives longer without pneumonia. So in a way, it's good. But I agree I'm very chape already. Very chape of wearing mask. I just don't want to wear it anymore. But life goes on. I have to do it.
Thank you, doctor, for the answer.
I have a question to Dr.Leong.
Yes, Professor.
Dr. Leong.
Adianta.
Yeah, a nice talk. As you know that the mRNA vaccine is a new technology vaccine. And do you think that it will work better than against a new variant than the old one, like an inactivated vaccine produced by Cyanovac? And how do you explain their effectiveness?
How do you explain the
effectiveness against the new variant?
Okay. The problem with the variant is when there's a variant comes in, the spike protein that's here changes shape a little bit. Once it changes shape, your ability to control it becomes poorer. Now, then it really depends on the vaccine design, whether are they still able to hold on to the spike protein sufficiently well, even though there's a spike. It's like the screw cap doesn't work so much because there's something poking out. You just cannot capture it well. If you have large enough, you will be fine. If you don't have large enough and it's a bad fit, then it will not work. Now, Cyanovac vaccine, I'm going to say this very honestly. If the Chinese people hear me, they will kill me. They use alum to make the spike protein more juicy. But the problem is alum was proven 20 years ago to be the most inefficient way of making the vaccine effective. So it's like instant noodles are the sauce are not so nice. So it doesn't make the immune system strong enough. China used it because alum got no copyright. You don't have to pay money to any company. The best one until January 2020 was by GSK called AS03, AS04. AS03, AS04 was used for their shingles vaccine, which was very good. It's also used for their bird flu vaccine, which is very good. But when GSK tried to do the vaccine on the COVID vaccine, it didn't work for the old people. So the AS03 didn't work. So if AS03 that's so potent that cannot work, then I suspect the same problem with the Cyanovac. But Cyanovac has one advantage, and I'm hoping the advantage will be sufficient. The advantage is you realize they throw the entire dead virus inside. The body, everyone in the world bet on the spike protein, right? Except Cyanovac. So if the spike protein mutate, then the whole vaccine business is over. But Cyanovac has the whole virus and the alum. If there is a little protein on the other side left behind and the body mounts a response, it will work. So in a totally, if the spike protein mutates, it is to the advantage of Cyanovac that it will work. If the spike protein doesn't mutate, then the mRNA vaccines are better. Do you understand? It's a bit complicated. But so far, in terms of real world data, at the end of the day, it's like I have so many stores of nasi lemak, nasi biryani, and laksa. The one with the most number of people is the one that wins. At this point in time, the Cyanovac vaccine that's used in Chile, CHILE, has not been very effective. So their results in the real world data is not very good. But I'm hoping that the Chinese would, after 2 doses, kasih satu lagi. Give one more, show me the data, show me it works. At the end of the day, it's a numbers game. The more antibodies, the better protection. So I'm praying the Chinese do 3 doses and see how good the result is. Okay?
And Dr. Leong, as you know that there is from the immunology point of view, there is a memory B lymphocyte that is induced probably by an inactivated vaccine, and probably it will not be inducing the T lymphocyte. How do you think about this new technology vaccine mRNA?
Okay, I was very worried about that problem. I was very worried that the mRNA vaccine only induced the B cell arm. But there are studies to show now that the mRNA makes the T cell arm as well. So both of them. So that one, no problem. If you, for the rest of the audience, if I just use I kill the virus and I put inside the body here, I only get the B cell arm. But if I kill the virus, add in the alum or the adjuvant, I will have B and T cell. So this is why Professor Hadianto is worried whether the mRNA mix, because the mRNA has no alum, has no adjuvant. But the study shows that you still have T cell, so I'm very, very thankful.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Leong.
you.
Okay, all right. Is there any from the audience?
Yes, Dr. Putri, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Very nice talk, doctor.
Thank you.
You said that the alum is not so effective, and GSK has another patented component. Do you know GSK or some other company would like to do the same approach as Cyanovac, but use the better preservative or the better the one rather than alum?
I know, I can tell you, GSK tried, they failed. There's another company called Novavax. Novavax they showed the data for the UK and African data very good, about 89% efficacious, 60 to 89%. So they use another form of adjuvant. There's one more company which was success. They used the so they bought license from GSK with the ASO3, and then they put it inside their own virus. I think it's CanSino. I can't remember, but it's a China company. Sorry. Clover. I remember the name now. It's called Clover. Clover bought copyright from GSK, and Clover is a China brand one. Then they put it inside the vaccine, and so far it seems to work. Okay, so there are 3 such companies using this method. Like you, I actually like the adjuvant better. Okay, but if you
so
look
another
at
question, so regarding that you said if we can obtain higher titer of antibody, so it will be better. So is there any tips that we can tell to the patients to increase, such as now we most rely on supplements, right, herbal medicine, etc. So do you think there is some advantage to suggest for the people to take some kind of supplements, so this can then increase the titer of antibody after vaccination?
Yes, there is rather. Okay, so the first thing which you can do is don't take Panadol or don't take antihistamines with the vaccine. So I get a vaccine, I feel lousy. If you can, you tahan. Don't take Panadol. If you take, your antibody will fall a little bit. And those people who take the Panadol or the antihistamines before, it will be even worse. Okay, it'll be even worse. So number one, don't take before. If you cannot tahan, then you can take it after. It'll be better. Now the next thing is the now this is suspect, not proven. I want to stress to you, I want everyone to have good vitamin D levels for COVID. In fact, once you have good vitamin D levels, the risk of you getting COVID is lower, severe COVID is lower. Now, early data, very early data, not proven yet, suggests that when you have enough vitamin D, then you get the vaccine, your immune response is the more of the right type than the wrong type. So if you have more of the right type, then you hope that the antibody levels will be higher. So I would encourage everyone to make sure they have enough vitamin D. If you don't want to spend money and buy vitamin D, you go to the sun every day at 35, sun yourself, ping 35 minutes on the sun. There's one way. Next way is you just take supplements of 2,000 to 4,000 IU every day. And then this will lower down the risk of you getting COVID. In addition, you may have the better type of immune reaction after COVID vaccine. Now, it may, because not proven in science. In theory, it should work. So no harm because vitamin D is very harmless. You just pingkang in the sun for 30 minutes every day. But it's a good question. Can I just follow up one more thing? WHO knows they need to work out what test to do to measure the antibodies. If I can measure antibody levels, I surely can tell, this one at risk, this one not at risk. The at risk one, I kasih lagi. WHO knows that they need to work out which test to do, how to standardize the test, and what level is enough, what level is not enough, what level is enough. So the scientists haven't decided yet. But there will come a time when they will tell you anti-RBD antibody, how much, or neutralizing antibodies, how much, then you can protect against the variants. The scientists will answer this question hopefully in the next 3 months. Okay?
Yeah.
I think that
Thank you
is
very
also
much.
the reason. I think that is also the reason for us now, we are not, after we got the vaccine, some of us are not suggested to check the antibody.
Correct.
Because it might make us sad, you know.
You don't even know what level is enough.
Yeah,
Is 20
exactly.
enough, or 200 enough, or 2000?
Exactly. Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from our students, perhaps?
Yes, I want to ask question to Dr. Leong.
Canfin?
Dr. Leong, thank you for your presentation. It's very interesting. I want to ask 2 questions. The number 1, about the mRNA vaccine. Is it possible that this mRNA vaccine makes us immune to another coronavirus family infection, such as MERS? And the second question, in Indonesia nowadays, some people is trying to develop vaccine from dendritic cells. What do you think about dendritic cell vaccine? Can it be the future vaccine like this mRNA vaccine? Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, I think you have a very, very good question. Your question is, after the body has been used to attacking the COVID-19 one, does this antibody make you at greater risk for MERS? Okay. The answer is possible, but I don't think so, because the antibody which they make here is quite different from MERS. So it probably won't work. But I'm going to give you another idea. If one camel is where the MERS come from, right? One camel, then they have the human COVID-19 come in. He also got the MERS inside, and the two play mahjong. And then they mix, and come up one where it's a bit like MERS, where it's a bit like COVID. And then when that comes, then your antibody binds, it cannot neutralize because it's not a good fit. But it may create problems. So you are right, there is a potential for that problem. But it will apply not only to mRNA, it will also apply to others. And this is always the danger. When two viruses come together and mix together, then we are in deep trouble. It'll be something totally new, something unpredictable. So we don't like them to mix. So we want to control them. So your second question, the dendritic cells, very interesting. I'm very hopeful because the dendritic cells are the ones that stimulate the immune system. You're right, it potentially can be a much better solution to mRNA. Good question, Kevin.
All right. Great, Gus. It seems like time's running really fast. You know, we learned a lot from Dr. Leong, but somehow the time has to stop us. Hopefully, next time we will conduct a similar activity and we can talk more about it with Dr. Leong. Hadirin semua, Bapak dan Ibu, karena waktunya sudah menunjukkan pukul 12:10 dan Dr. Leong ada kegiatan yang lainnya, maka kita akan mengakhiri kegiatan ini. Tapi sebelum kegiatan ditutup, kita akan memberikan sedikit bingkisan kepada Dr. Leong, pastinya secara virtual. We will give you a virtual appreciation, actually. And then before we close, we will hold another prayer. So to keep us safe in this world. And then after that, we will take a picture together virtually as well. But before that, I would like to show you the gift appreciation, if you can see it. We will send it to you through the Parkway Hospital representatives in Medan. And we also, this is the most interesting thing, I think. This is what we call ulos. Ulos is a traditional cloth of the Batak people, which is from North Sumatra. According to them, this ulos will keep you warm, yeah, aside from the sun and fire. And ulos is also will keep you safe, actually. And we consider it sacred, and it has a special power to protect the user. So by sending this, we hope that you're always healthy and safe and be able to share all the information to us or to others in the future.
Thank you very much, Dr. Putri. Thank you very, very much. I really accept them. It's very, very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay. And before we close, we would like to call again Pendeta Estomimi to say a little bit of prayer for all of us. Please, Bapak Pendeta.
Maaf, Pak, masih mute, Pak.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Putri, Dr. Putri. Because signal is frozen, I'm sorry. I want to close my camera. Let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we are grateful for this webinar. Has given us guidance for our next steps, for it has given us positive mindsets and motivation to carry on without respective professions. Please bless us. Speaker Mr. Leon Hunam, who has shared his knowledge and experience, and bless Ibu Dr. Putri and all of us. We praise you for your grace and mercy. Thank you, Lord. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Thank you, Putri, Ibu Dr. Putri.
Thank you, Pendeta Estomimi. And before that, I would like to ask the IT department for the picture taking. And Mrna, Dr.Leong has given his 2 thumbs up. I would give my love to everyone. Sudah?
Sudah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Terima
Thank you
kasih
very much.
kepada
Thank you.
Bapak
Terima
Ibu,
kasih
adik-adik
banyak.
semua. Terima kasih, Dr. Leong.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Putri. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let us hope that the world is a better place in the future.
Amen.
Okay, bye-bye. Good morning.